Hmm.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
So yeah, I had this in the calendar invite for 2 o'clock. I think I had the same problem. And then when I did get the link, it was the wrong link. This seems to happen like every time we have these meetings.
I'm
And
gonna, yeah. By the
I
way,
don't
the
know
meeting
what-
is live right now, Ben.
Okay, great.
But yeah,
So
I'll figure out what happened this time.
mhm.
We do have quorum. Do you have the annotated agenda document I sent earlier?
I'm just pulling that up now. I had to just reschedule 2 other important meetings I had at this time. Okay, so ready to start?
Yep.
Great. Welcome, everyone. We can call this regular meeting of the KCRHA Implementation Board to order. We start by grounding our work in the theory of change, which is if we create a homeless response system that centers people with lived experience, then we will be able to focus on responding to needs and limiting inequities in order to end homelessness for all. This is a hybrid meeting, as are all of our meetings. So there's a physical location as well as virtual access. Our in-person location is at the Seattle City Hall. We want to thank the City of Seattle for hosting that. Austin, can you please take roll?
Absolutely. Member Anderson. Member Caminos. Member Carvalho.
Here.
Member Shelmanek. Chair Moritz.
Here.
Member Gordon McHenry Jr. Member Pattenow.
Here.
Member Floyd.
Here.
Member Reddy.
Here.
Member Ross.
Here.
Member D. Member Watt.
Here.
Member Brandon. And alternate for Trell. Chair, we have 7 members present. We're at quorum.
Okay, great. I'm glad I could join. So we acknowledge that King County is located on the unceded traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. We honor this land and its people past and present, and we are committed to directing funding and resources to organizations led by and in support of Native and Indigenous people. We now have public comment. Each member of the public gets 2 minutes. If you are in Zoom, please raise your hand now, and our clerk will call you in the order received. If you are in person, please connect with Taj to sign up and get your name on the list.
We are good to move on, Chair.
Okay, great. So first, the consent agenda is next. We have only one item, which is the April 24 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Simha. A second?
I second.
Thank you both. All approved, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And Austin, I think I messed up the order of public comment. Did you want to do public comment now, or did we not have anybody sign up?
We have 1 person sign up now.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes,
Sorry.
and the clerk recognizes Member Caminos as present. Member Caminos, are you there?
Yes, here. Thank you.
Thank you. First up on public comment, we have just via Zoom is Mike Matthias. Mike, you have been given permission to speak. If you want to unmute, test your mic, and then your 2 minutes will begin after that.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Mike.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Mike Matthias. I'm the Executive Director of Anything Helps. In May of last year, we applied for HMIS access with the KCRHA and were initially denied, which we completely understood at the time and appealed. After 2 months, the Systems Performance Committee overturned the denial after careful consideration. Yet this decision was vetoed by the Community Impact Officer who initially denied us. This action undermines the checks and balances intended in that policy to prevent such unilateral decisions and disrespects the committee's authority, effectively tokenizing that entire board. During our year without HMIS access, our client base has suffered significantly, resulting in 14 emergency room visits and 10 mental health hospitalizations within our client base. Despite our growth of 400% and an expansion into 3 counties now, with existing HMIS access now in Snohomish County, repeated attempts to secure a referral to an organization with the KCRHA for HMIS access in King County, they've been ignored. The reason cited for the continued denial was an unencrypted email that I had sent to the Ombudsman's office, a practice that is paralleled by the Ombudsman's office's own forms, which also send information unencrypted to anyone that submits a request. Moreover, we have incurred over $5,000 in legal fees just communicating with the RHA, despite me living right across the street to resolve this issue, only to face stonewalling from your legal team. This forces us into a dilemma choosing between pursuing costly litigation or, forsaking justice. And it's just unacceptable for a government entity to operate with such disregard for fairness or the dire needs of the people that you're supposed to be serving. And we expect better. We demand better from you. So please just do better, guys. Like, this is ridiculous. We're tired of playing this stupid game with you.
Thank you. That is currently the only, Mike is the only one who signed up for public comment. Before we close public comment, I'm going to ask a couple more times. Is there anybody who wants to sign up for public comment? Please raise your hand in Zoom. Is there anybody else that would like to sign up for public comment? Please raise your hand in Zoom. Chair, I have asked 3 times. Nobody has signed up. Public comment is now closed.
Okay, well, thank you to Mike for that comment. I also I wanted to take a quick moment off deviating from the script to welcome Ryan, our newest implementation board member. Ryan, do you want to just say a quick introduction about yourself for our colleagues? Can I put you on the spot like that?
Sure. Thanks, Ben, and hello to all of you. I'm really glad to be here. I've worked in housing and homelessness for the last 8 years, first for a firm called Apt Associates, which did, among other things, HUD technical assistance work. I was also responsible for the annual homeless assessment report to Congress while I was at Apt. And then up until 2 weeks ago, when I started a new job, for the last 4.5 years, I worked for a national homelessness nonprofit called Community Solutions, which runs, among other things, the Built for Zero initiative. And for CS, I led their international team. Yeah, looking forward to be able to contribute to the work to end homelessness here in King County, where I live.
Thanks, Ryan. And Austin, we do have another newly confirmed member as well, right? Who is not able to join today?
Yes, Mike D, not able to join currently, but will be joining us later on in this meeting. But Mike D is an appointment of the advisory committee and is on the Lived Experience Caucus. So welcome, Ryan and Mike.
Excellent. Thank you. So with that, we now move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the 2025 budget request presentation and resolution 2024-09, recommending the budget to the governing committee. Before the vote, we'll receive a presentation from Jeff and Tiffany of KCRHA. I will also just make one note, which is I will have to leave the meeting for about 15 minutes at 1:30 due to a scheduling error on my part, and Christopher has agreed to take over as the what is the term? The
Chair Pro Tem.
Chair Pro Tem. Thank you. Thanks. So I'll slide out quietly.
Chair, just before that begins, just ask if there's any objections, and then we should.
Oh, thank you. Is there any objection to that? Thank you.
No.
Perfect.
So Jeff and Tiffany, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to share my screen. If you would give me a moment, please let me know if you can see everything. Okay, good afternoon. Today I will be presenting to you our 2025 proposed budget for City of Seattle and King County and our 2026 proposed budget for the City of Seattle. Just going over the components of the KCRHA budget as we do every year when we're doing a budget presentation. Just informing you guys that our budget is comprised of 3 components at this time. Our base budget, which is level funding that we anticipate to receive year over year from our funders. One-time funding that we anticipate to receive from the funders, whether it's continued one-time funding, multi-year one-time funding, or one-time funding that we anticipate in the next coming year. And incremental budget changes that we anticipate year over year from our funders. This could be an incremental increase or incremental decrease to our budget. This year for 2020, our 2025 budget proposal, we are proposing a $230 million budget from the City of Seattle, King County, our North King County ILA partners, HUD, and the Department of Commerce, including some philanthropic funds that we anticipate to receive in the coming year. But they are not included here because they have not been confirmed. In this slide, we're comparing our revised 2024 budget to our proposed 2025 budget and breaking it out by funder and breaking it out by program type. We want to highlight that we did remove HIN funding because we will not be receiving the HIN funding from King County in 2024 nor 2025 until we have further discussions. And we are anticipating a 2.5% inflationary increase for our City of Seattle contracts. Breaking out our funding by program type, we would just want to highlight that our highest program type will be our enhanced shelter programs, followed by our permanent supportive housing, supportive services, and permanent supportive housing programs, as well as our rapid rehousing programs. By our funders, we just have it broken out here so that you can see the percentage of how much of our funding is coming from our different funders. And on this slide, we are identifying what are our incremental changes that we are anticipating to have for increases and that we are proposing for 2025. From the City of Seattle, we are proposing to have a 2.5%, which is the equivalent of about $2.3 million in inflationary increases for our contracts for program services, as well as requesting for the COC COLA inflationary increases to continue into 2025. We're also proposing to continue our CDBG funding for shelters. It's currently funding 2 shelter programs. There's a new process that is happening this year where we do have to request these funds from the City of Seattle for 2025. And so this is highlighting that we will be moving forward with requesting those dollars to continue those 2 shelter programs in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. For King County, we are identifying a bid focus increase that we're receiving for our contract. It's roughly $300,000. And so we will be requesting $300,000 from King County to help support that increase in our contract, as well as $4.2 million to continue contracts that we transferred from King County this year that is currently receiving one-time funding due to them being critical services that we do not want to lose. We are also proposing a $6.6 million inflationary increase from King County. In the past 2 years, King County has provided one-time enhancement funding to their contracts. This year, they matched the City of Seattle's 9.5% increase, which included a 7.5% inflationary increase, as well as a 2% wage increase to total the 9.5% increase for one-time enhancement funds. Those funds are currently one-time and do not continue into 2025. And so we are proposing to continue those dollars into 2025 with an anticipated 2.5% inflationary increase for those contracts to keep them level funded and to keep them on course with our other programs that receive COLA increases from the City of Seattle. And finally, for our King County budget proposal, we are requesting $225,000 for severe weather response expansion to ensure that we are providing a regional approach for severe weather services as we're encountering these events throughout the year and as they're increasing throughout the year as temperatures change and increase and decrease and have higher swings and impacts on people who are experiencing homelessness, for a total of $17 million for our 2025 budget request. This slide and the next slide are just giving the breakdown and that information that I just provided to you guys for each of the budget adds that we will be requesting for this year from the city and county. And this slide is basically just giving you an overview of our funding by our funder and the fund source that we receive from each of our funders so that you can see the breakdown of how much funding we're receiving from our funders for each particular fund source that they provide to us. This is breaking it out by our funder, program type, and fund source so that you can see it across the board for each program type, each fund source, for it to roll up to our particular funder. I will highlight that for the city of Seattle, we are receiving a 1% reduction to our general fund, and you will see that for a total of $871,000. And we are anticipating a 2.5% inflationary increase. You will notice that next to the inflationary increase that you see the CDBG, which is the consolidated block grant that we receive from as a pass-through fund source from the city of Seattle for 2 shelter services. This is the same format for our King County funding, broken out by funder, fund source, and program type. And the same for our other fund sources, which includes the North King County Interlocal Agreement, HUD Continuum of Care funds, and the Department of Commerce right-of-way funding that we anticipate to receive in 2025. The KCRHA receives approximately 7% admin for the funds that we receive from all of our funders in total. And this is showing the breakdown of how those funds are distributed amongst the different teams and departments and overhead costs that we have here at the KCRHA. I will highlight that if you're tying back to one of the previous slides where we have the all-inclusive roll-up of our overall budget for the year, that for admin and operating, it shows a $14 million admin amount on the previous slides, and this slide has the $15.1 million amount because it includes the anticipated inflation that we would be receiving from the city of Seattle, as well as the anticipated admin costs that we will receive from CDBG if it is approved by the city of Seattle. This is just an overall overview of all of our funding. It's a reiteration of the slide that was previously presented, just to give a wrap up. And then for our 2026 budget proposal for the city of Seattle, we are anticipating to receive level funding from the city of Seattle. We are identifying that we are anticipating to receive CDBG funds from the city of Seattle in 2025, which will continue into 2026. And then we are tacking on an additional 2.5% projected inflationary increase for their contracts. At this time, we are recommending that that the IB continues to approve and accept this budget proposal, and that we are approved to transmit it to the GC so that they can have their review and their approval, as well as then follow by us transmitting it to the city of Seattle and King County. I would just highlight for King County, they're doing a 1-year budget process, where the city of Seattle is doing a 2-year budget process, which is why you do not see a proposed 2026 budget for King County. And this is the resolution or recommended action for the 2026 proposed budget for the city of Seattle. At this time, I will open the floor for discussion and any comments.
Great. Thank you. Christopher, do you mind just taking over now so that we don't have to make a transition in 5 minutes?
Yes, not a problem. So recognizing Simha, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Tiffany, thank you for that presentation. Can you share a bit about how does this differ from the stabilization budget we discussed at our last meeting or back in March?
Absolutely. If Jeff is on the line, Jeff, definitely feel free to tap in if you have anything to add to it. But the way that this differs from the stabilization budget that we presented a couple months ago is the stabilization budget did present the KCRHA maintaining level funding year over year from the city of Seattle for contracts that received one-time funding in previous years due to COVID-19. We were proposing to have a budget request for the continued funding, which is approximately, I don't have the numbers up in front of me, so I don't want to quote the exact dollar amount, but we were proposing to continue the one-time funding for those programs to prevent the need to ramp down any services and cause any stress or hardship on the clients that are currently receiving those services. It was also including the 2.5% inflationary increase, which is included here. And I believe one other item that we were proposing for the stabilization to ensure that we maintained level services year over year for the clients that are receiving our services and experiencing homelessness.
Tiffany, what is the, can you share the impact on our shelter capacity in particular?
I believe the impact is just under 300 households that will be impacted with a decrease in services from us not continuing one-time services. I will say that we will go through an exercise to ensure that there is the least amount of impact of services on people who are receiving these services and people experiencing homelessness. However, at this time right now, the projection is about just under 300 households that would be impacted. And I can get with the team to get more detailed information for you if needed.
I have a comment, but I want to hold and let others and not hog the floor.
Tiffany, do we need to keep the budget up or can we go to full screen at this point?
It is up to you. Do you still want to see it or would you like for me to close it?
I think for the purpose of this conversations, let's go to this. This is better, thanks. Other comments or input from the board? Jaja. Chair.
Thank you, Crystal. Yes, Tiffany, the prevention line, did you explain that? I missed it. Does it?
You're breaking up on my end, but I'm going to repeat it. Hopefully I heard you correctly. You were saying the prevention line is going from a dollar amount in 2024 to zero in 2025. Yes, the city of Seattle is recapturing prevention and outreach funding from the KCRHA. Prevention is slated to be returned to the city of Seattle for July 1st of this year, and outreach service contracts will transition over for the 1st of January 2025.
I think you can have whether it might have.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand your question.
No, I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Do we have other comments and feedback on the proposed budget? Board member ready?
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem Ross. You know, I will say that I have two primary concerns regarding the budget proposal that we are considering submitting. The first is that, you know, we are really talking about a significant loss in shelter capacity. You know, looking through the board materials, it looks like a loss of shelter, about 300 shelter beds, and as well as a loss of, rapid rehousing dollars, I think, for 200 something families. I struggle with the idea of us submitting a request that actually moves us backwards. I absolutely understand that our funders are doing their very best in a very difficult fiscal climate. I think it's also important that we indicate to them what our needs truly are. My other concern is around the movement of funds from specifically prevention and outreach from KCRHA back to the city of Seattle. It is part of essentially kind of the homeless crisis response system. And when you talk about a system, you really want all the pieces together in one place. And I worried that this is essentially like for our next CEO, we're handing them a system without pieces that they may feel are quite important. It is like trying to run a hotel without having a lobby or front desk, right? And keeping these administratively separated, I think, is not necessarily in KCRH's, in our community's best interest. Those are my two concerns. And once we come to a time to vote on this particular budget, I'd like to propose 2 amendments regarding those concerns.
Any other thoughts for membership? Okay, I'm in a meeting. I'm gonna have to be what I was doing, but hopefully I'll be all right. All right. Keep my shoes on. All right.
Well, on that note, then you can,
My son said,
Okay, I don't think that was anything meant for this group, so. Sima, did you get all your comments shared?
Yeah, I believe so. In particular, I think when we were talking about our budget request, right? Like it absolutely makes sense to me that our elected officials need to make some hard decisions. And when we were thinking about cost, of course, you know, we have to be thoughtful. But I really do worry about sort of indirect costs, that by reducing the money we're spending on shelter and housing, that we're going to end up spending more in places where we don't want to. Example being the hospital, jail, frankly, even the morgue, that we are going to be spending in ways that are not in alignment with what our community values are. Yeah, that being said, I also understand that we are obligated to submit a budget that is in line with the resources that are available. And I'd like to, once we take this resolution under consideration, propose amendments that would ask our City of Seattle to accept our revised budget, this one that we have seen just today, but as the budget process moves forward, consider attempting to increase our funding if at all possible.
So is there a motion to approve resolution 2024-09?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need to open up for discussion, or is that it? And now can we open it for discussion?
Yes, and then this is where the amendments would then be proposed. If needed.
Okay.
Well, in case I'd like to move to amend our if there's no other discussion specifically around the our current. Okay. I'd like to move to amend our resolution 2024-09. And Austin, are you able to bring up Amendment 1 for us? And in the interim, I will go ahead and read off what I think are the relevant passages. So they're highlighted here. So we will submit our revised budget in line with the direction we've been given by our funders, but include also the following: that whereas the budget proposal submitted to the implementation board on May 2nd, 2024 recommends a funding level that would potentially result in the loss of hundreds of shelter beds and an estimated 265 households whose experience of homelessness would not be diverted. Oh gosh, sorry, something else popped up on my screen. Would add a section 2 that the implementation board requests the City of Seattle explore all potential scenarios to reconsider the allocation set for KCRHA for 2025 in order to provide KCRHA the funding level outlined in the stabilization budget presented to the implementation board at its March 13th, 2024 meeting, and recommends the governing committee similarly endorse such a request. Now, I'll say this is not, at least to my understanding, binding in any way on our funders or governing committee colleagues. This is a request that this conversation continue. That I will pause there.
Simha, I like the amendments. And I wonder, I mean, I feel like things like attempt to find or, continue working on it feel like they don't, like they lack a lot of teeth to it. Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't see your hand was up. So I'll just finish my thought.
Yeah, you go first. I'll go.
Floor.
Okay. I too really struggle with this over the stabilization budget. I know that our funders at the city and county have some real harsh realities, but this in front of us is very tangible, right? Like 300 shelter beds, 265 households that no longer receive diversion, and then the closure or reduction of a central district shelter that serves Black males. I think I'm personally struggling to want to move forward or to vote on this budget. But I think I'm in favor of the amendment. I would want maybe a little bit stronger language, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I know what that language would be, but happy to hear from others.
Thank you. Board Member Watt.
Thanks, Chris. And first of all, I'll say that this has been a fun first meeting to jump into. Simha, thank you for putting forward this amendment. I agree that it is critical to communicate to the public and to our funders what the actual scale of the need is, either through passing the stabilization budget or through this amendment or some combination of them. I'd propose a change to the amendment. I don't know what the formal process for this is, that broadens the request from just the city of Seattle to all of KCRHA's funders, although the specific instance here is most acute with the city of Seattle. I think it's clear that we are going to need more funds than are currently proposed in order to achieve the mission of this agency. And I think that's a call that's appropriate for us to make to all of our funders and not just the city of Seattle.
Other comments?
Just pointing out, Board Member Brandon has her hand raised.
Thank you. I can't see with the screen share, but thank you. Board Member Brandon.
Yes, thank you. I agree with Paula. I'm not sure if this is exactly what you're saying, but I definitely feel the urge to say I would like some stronger commitment. It feels like it's kind of loose commitment far as the language is concerned. And so that's what I'm looking to see.
Board Member Floyd.
Thank you, board members. Christopher, I agree with the amendment. I also strongly agree with Paula. And the language I don't know, but I think it needs more teeth that will actually do what it says it's going to do, stabilize things. You know what I'm saying? So, but I definitely love the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Watt, do you still have a comment to share?
Yeah, forgive me. I had a
No,
sort of point of information that I forgot to bring up during the last time. And forgive me if this is somewhere in the materials that we've been provided, but I'm curious to know what the utilization rate for these 300 shelter beds has been and for the other shelter. And what timeline we're talking about in terms of wind down should we approve the sort of currently proposed budget rather than the stabilization budget.
Thank you for that question. We will have to get back with you and we'll send it via email.
I can't speak to these 300 beds, but I do see that in our operational work plan that we've most recently seen I think it was an 88% utilization rate for our shelters as a whole, or temporary housing as a whole. What that means for these particular ones, I'm not sure, but I really appreciate that question. I do agree that this is not on the city of Seattle. This is all of us and all our funders, and I would agree that we should, with the idea of changing our language to include all our funders. I will say that that issue that Paula brought up around heat, right? And sort of the strength of this kind of language, because this is really just a request to, hey, keep thinking about this. Like, don't just sign off on this and move forward. I struggled with that, and I fundamentally think our partners, our funders, are doing the best they possibly can in this moment, and that if they could be doing more, I think they would be. And I think it is fundamentally, it is not our decision how much money we get, right? Like, these are all, like, what we are submitting is really just a request. Please, can we have this amount? And I think we have an obligation, at least per my understanding, regarding the ILA, that our requests be in line with what's been offered. And so I want to be cognizant of that. And that was sort of my rationale for taking this approach, rather than asking to only pass forward, let's say, a stabilization budget, for example.
Thank you, Member Reddy. I want to try and keep us a little bit on as much as possible on time, but I don't want to truncate the conversation. I have one other question I'd like to ask, open-ended, and to you, Member Reddy, and then I'm going to ask if we have a motion to amend. But when it came to the revised language that you're sharing on this, that Austin's sharing on the screen, was there, I'm sure there was very careful selection of words at the time. So was there a reason why it was deliberately kept at this level? Was there, you probably debated how vigorously you could state it. So could you provide any context to the thought process behind it and the original author? This has gone through legal review. This is what would be palatable or acceptable.
Thanks, Christopher. I will say that this happened fairly quickly. Yesterday, sort of looking again through our documents and realizing sort of the impact of this new budget, I reached out to our KCRHA staff and just expressed my concerns and shared a request for language that would allow us to continue to move the budget forward and not cause delay in any way, but express sort of a message that clearly indicates the potential loss of beds. So I asked KCRHA staff to put this together for us.
Thank you. Well, I would like to ask if we have a motion to amend, and then we can vote on the resolution.
This is Jaja. I make a motion that we accept the amendment as stated, or with the revisions if necessary.
So I think I need to parse that into a motion to amend, and then we vote on that, and then we, Austin, from a procedural standpoint, and then we vote. Okay. So can I take that, Jaja, as you're putting forth a motion to amend the resolution? Yes. Great. Do I have a second?
Actually, before we, sorry,
please.
I don't know if this is the right time. I was actually going to suggest we make that revision that Ryan had recommended, that in section 2, rather than saying the implementation board requests the city of Seattle, that we request our funders.
Member Reddy, we have to put this amendment up for consideration. So this amendment needs to make a second, and then we can amend it further.
And a second.
Well, hold that thought. We'll come right back. I have a motion from Member Floyd. Do I have a second?
I believe I heard Member Reddy.
Okay, Member Reddy, you second to amend? Is that correct? Great.
Yes.
So all in favor of amending the resolution?
Oh, wait, pause. Now with Simha wanting to make the amendment with it, that's when he then amends this amendment.
I would like to move to, Chair, I'd like to move to amend this amendment to change the city of Seattle to KCRHA funders.
Seconded.
So section 2.
That's right, section 2.
And so hearing that, do I have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. Can we go to a vote then?
Yeah.
All in favor of the amended resolution with the changes as shared? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I know that we have lost Ben. Jaja, you only have a minute. I think you're on mute. Did we get your vote?
Yes, aye.
Any opposed? Great. So if I understand correctly, following Robert's rules, so the amendment, the resolution passes.
So then this amendment to the amendment passes. Now we have to vote on the amendment and then we vote on the resolution. Yeah.
Love the process.
Love Robert's rule.
So starting with then the first, I need a motion to approve.
Nope, a motion's already there. We just need to go to a vote to approve the resolution or to approve the amendment. And then, so yeah, we can just jump to a vote. It's already been moved.
Okay. So just to help me, so I state it correctly for the record, a motion to approve the resolution.
A vote to approve the amendment.
A vote to approve the amendment, and then Member Watt, do you still have your hand up during this process?
I've raised it again. I hesitate to complicate things further. The text that I see on screen says that we recommend the May 2nd budget to the governing committee. So although what Sima is proposing is a amendment, I'm wondering if by voting yes on this, we are actually voting to move forward with the revised budget, which is the underlying motion. I don't know. I don't understand how the procedure works, but I'm reading that text and wondering what we're voting on.
I do believe that is the case. We're approving the budget that was sent in the May 2nd package that we all received.
With this amendment. So there's no third motion lying under this one. Is that right, Austin?
There is. It's the resolution as amended is the third one. So we're currently on the amendment if it's a yes or a no, and then we move to the resolution as amended, yes or no.
So if there were board members who wanted to vote for the stabilization budget, that would require another amendment to this to change the language that's currently in section 1. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
So we now have in front of us, I'm sorry, before we proceed, Member Floyd.
Yes, so I was wondering, I was gonna ask board member, I don't know what your name is, Ryan? If that's what he was trying to make a motion to change that, does it already state that it's stabilized in section 1?
I think the question was, Member Watt, are you motioning to amend it at this time?
No, I have no motion at this time.
Chair Ross, we might want to proceed with the vote on the amendment itself.
Okay, so can we open up for then a vote on the amendment, which is in front of us? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes. So now we move to the resolution.
Yep, and then that is a roll call vote.
Okay. And the resolution is what is on our screen still being shared with us?
Yes.
Okay. So the resolution that's in front of us, if we could do a roll call then. Austin, for those in favor of adopting the resolution as it's presented.
Member Anderson? Member Caminos?
Yes.
Member Carvalho?
Yes.
Member Merritts?
Yes.
Member McHenry Jr.? Member Shelmanek? Member Patnow?
Yes.
Member Floyd,
Yes.
Member Ready,
Yes.
Member Ross,
Yes.
Member D, Member Watt,
Yes.
and Member Brandon.
Yes.
Awesome. Chair, the motion passes unanimously. Resolution 2024-09 has been approved.
Okay, excellent. I see that Simha, you've recommended that you're going to hold off in the interest of time any further amendments.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think we passed it already. And okay.
so with that, we have nothing else.
Nope, the motion is
Okay.
passed. We can now move on to the next agenda item.
Fantastic. So we're exactly at 1:50, which, believe it or not, is exactly on schedule with our agenda. Ben, I'm happy to hand this back to you and we're over to NPAG and the CEO search.
Sure, there's one sentence left for me to read. I'm happy to do that.
I'll go for it.
But I do want to make one quick comment related to the budget, if that's okay.
Please.
And I'm sorry I missed that substantive conversation. I did have a chance to speak with Simha yesterday, and I think I understand the substance of what the intention was. I do think there is another piece to this. I mean, firstly, I think we all share the concern that we're going to be reducing services, especially reducing shelter at a time when our overwhelming priority is to bring people inside. In addition to more funding, which I hope we can try and find, there is also the opportunity to try to decrease the cost per bed that we have by looking at the very wide range of program types that we have with varying costs. We know from a budget analysis that was done, I think almost 2 or 3 years ago, that we have a almost 5x difference between our highest and lowest cost per bed. I don't think this rises to the level of a resolution, but I do hope that we can continue to dive into that and figure out how can we do more with less, or more with more, or just generally more in general, in service of our one overarching goal of bringing people inside as quickly as possible. So forgive me for indulging myself with that comment, but it's I do think we need to look at all aspects of how we can advance our mission even in this difficult time. I see Nate raised his hand. Nate, did you want to make a comment on this or anything else?
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate your comments there too, and the board member Ready for bringing the amendments to this resolution. Just real quick, and before we move on to the next topic, then to add on what you just mentioned, we just passed a very formal language resolution, but had hearty discussion, obviously. And to your point, Ben, there's a lot of other dynamics and aspects of this that we hope to communicate to all of our funding partners. And so just a suggestion for you, Chair, our co-chairs, if there's an interest to how we communicate that with an adjoining letter in some way from the IB to the GC and funders in general, just to make sure that we're clear about what the action that we just took place today, what we were intended to do, and the motivations behind that, take into consideration. But that's just a suggestion on my behalf. It's up to you. I'll leave it up to the co-chairs.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. I mean, you're basically suggesting a more formal communication that captures the substance of the conversation we just had and the spirit of the amendment.
Correct. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion and intent behind these whereas clauses and language that we just went through, and just want to make sure that we're clear about how we're communicating the action that we took today with the intent behind it.
I think that's a great idea. Is that something, Simha, that you'd be willing to work on as well, just as there are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to submit a draft to y'all.
Okay, we can follow up on that offline.
Thanks, Ben. And thank you, Nate.
Any other comments on this critical topic of resources and results? If not, we can move on to the next sentence that I meant to read here, which is, we now move on to an introduction to the CEO search from Julian Jackson of MPAG. Julian, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everyone. I think I've met many of you kind of through our scoping and through kind of the bidding process. My name is Julian Jackson, Managing Director here at MPAG. And just wanted to spend a few moments as you all will be going into kind of conversations with the CEO candidates this week, beginning today, 2 of them today, 1 on Friday. I thought it would be helpful to just kind of quickly frame up both kind of our process, kind of where we are and next steps. And so to just kind of orient a little bit to kind of where we've been, we officially launched kind of the CEO role on January 16th, right after MLK Day. We've been in contact with over 400 individuals. We built a pool of about 30 applicants. And of that 30 applicants, about 6 were recommended forward for the search advisory committee's kind of consideration. After their kind of evaluation and assessment, 4 were invited, advanced and invited forward to be in conversation with the project committee, kind of a subset of this body that also represents kind of city, county, those with lived experience, service providers. And from that, we've advanced kind of 3 candidates. One of the things I'll just note, kind of last week, they have been in conversation with both staff and service providers, a pretty robust kind of 60-minute conversation, all bringing us to this juncture and process where they will be meeting with the implementation board today and Friday. And so you all should have kind of received under separate cover some materials to help kind of guide those conversations, but just wanted to give you all a sense of kind of the arc of the process up to this point. Moving kind of from the implementation board committee conversations this week, candidates will hopefully be invited to kind of one-on-one kind of GC committee conversations, all culminating to conversations on May 23rd, which will be kind of our final interview day, which will really be kind of a joint convening of the GC and IB for kind of consideration and conversation with these candidates. One thing I'll note is just kind of about this process is that we're at the juncture where, and this is true throughout the process, but particularly as we move to the later stages, where it is two-way cultivation. So we want to assess and evaluate candidates, but we also really want to give them, and we want to give them a sense and authentically kind of frame the opportunity, both the things that are exciting, but also the challenges. And so I will just say that as you are kind of moving into the conversations this week. I'll stop there. Oh, one other thing, just to kind of quickly note, we will ask at the end of those conversations for you to synthesize kind of your feedback in a survey document, which we'll provide. We'll kind of looking at time, cede the floor to you all for any questions that you may have as we move into these conversations shortly.
Thank you very much, Julian. Do you mind if I jump in at this point?
Please.
Chairman Bear, Ben?
Yes, please.
So thank you to MPAG for putting together a really robust package of all the questions that are possible. The subcommittee, the smaller panel worked on those questions. I think there was close to 20. We cultivated it down to 10 key questions. I've attached them. They were emailed to you all earlier, but just knowing how busy everyone is, so I also put them in the chat. My recommendation is that we actually can go around and I'll have each of the board member ask one of the questions. It's not that important, but it's great to have everyone's voice. If you really would rather not be participating and ask one of the questions, but just taking copious notes and observing, that is also completely your prerogative. But I would at least put out there is that everyone has an opportunity. So there's, in no particular order, if we can assign of the 10 questions, for consistency's sake, we will be asking these same 10 questions of all 3 candidates. So the 2 that we're interviewing today, and then the candidate that we're going to be meeting with on Friday will ask the same questions. A different interviewer may ask that question. That's not the concern, but we just have to be very consistent to be asking the same ones, particularly when we're filling in our feedback and comments, and MPAG is going to be rolling it together. So any concerns or thoughts about the possibility of having everyone take a question, or would there be a preference that just a few people run through them? I'm opening the floor for any thoughts.
Rotating through works for me.
Everyone else okay with that? Okay. My computer's having a momentary pause, not liking all the documents I have open. There we go. So I am happy to at least kick off. I have the easy part because it's they're all scripted, so it's very easy. The opening question or opening prompt. And then going down the list with visionary, I want to respect time. We only have about a minute.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we, just for the sake of it, after a question wraps up, I'll message you privately on the panelist to queue you up to ask the next one. But the first one we will have is under visionary and inclusive leadership. And if I can have Ben kick off the first question then on that one. And then after Ben, we'll move to Paula and then Simha. So there's the order for the next three. And I'll message you in the chat for the others. Is that okay? Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Simha. All right, I think we have a candidate ready to go then. Do we need to hop off of this, Austin, and move into?
Yeah, so Ben, if you can read the statement and then we'll enter executive session. And then that should be the Microsoft Teams link in yours. But Ben, if you could read that statement.
Okay, great. So we now move to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110G to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment for 45 minutes, and we'll be back at 2:45 for a 5-minute intermission before proceeding with the next candidate for the CEO search. Shockingly, we are exactly on time. Well done, Austin and everybody else. So with that, someone will be back here in 45 minutes, and we'll see you on the Teams.
And Austin, procedurally, should we sign off of this one or
You
just
could sign off. Yeah, probably sign off. I'm going to be muted and video off though, but yes, sign off.
Austin, where am I going? Austin, where am I going?
I just put a link in chat. If you want to click that, that should work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't see a link in the chat.
I'll also just send it over email really quick too.
So log off of this, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. This is Ben rejoining. We just completed our candidate A interview. This is our 5-minute intermission. I will go ahead and read the statement now for the next interview. We now move to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110G to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment for 45 minutes, and we'll be back at 3:40 for an interview with a candidate for the CEO search. We then plan to adjourn this session upon returning. Thank you.
That worked.
Alrighty, Chair, welcome back.
Oh, hello. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me here again. So with that, the only thing left to do is to adjourn. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you to all the candidates who just gave us their time to interview with us. Our next meeting is May 10th, where we will have one more candidate to interview. Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, sorry, I did see a hand from Mike. Mike, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to know the location for the next meeting.
Austin?
In person is Seattle City Hall in the Sam Smith room. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the Sam Smith room. Again, the interview will be happening in executive session, however, so. Just like
Yeah, and it'll be the candidate won't be in person. It'll be a virtual meeting like the ones today. Any other comments or a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
And a second. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Mike D. I.
Aye. Objections? Hearing none. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you to everybody for the long meeting today.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Chair.
much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.